sure OBS is recording. Good. Okay. Hello everyone. This is a special video. I'm not live streaming this. I am going to be recording this, and this is going to be a series of videos that I'm going to stitch together before uploading them. Now, when playing Minecraft, normally I play survival mode. I find it more fun than creative most of the time, but every now and then I like to just be able to build and build and build. And when I'm in the mood to build in creative, I typically build one of three things. And real quick, let me turn down the music so that it doesn't get too terribly loud. Let me just do that. Redstone contraptions. I like to mess around with redstone, see what I can make work. Castles and mazes. Now, what I like is that every time I build something and I get done building something, every time I go back and start to build something else, I'll include elements that I really liked in my previous builds, but I'll be like, you know what, I didn't really end up liking this, or I thought I could have done this better. So I'll rebuild the same thing like over and over and over in different iterations. So like every now I'll be like, you know what, I want to go build a castle. I liked this drawbridge idea and this moat idea from this castle, but you know, I didn't really like the storage system, or I didn't like this, so let me try to do this instead. And I'll just load up a new creative world and I'll go dig whatever. And I mentioned mazes. So something I used to do with someone I used to be friends with is we would go into our own creative worlds and we would build mazes, and then when we were done we would share the world. We'd have the other one come over and try and see if they couldn't beat our maze, and we'd always try to see, you know, how hard can we make this thing without making it, you know, actually impossible. It's been a long time. It's been years and years and years since I've last built one and did that. But I have my other friend I play Minecraft with, and unbeknownst to her, I've decided I'm going to start building a maze that when it's finished, I'm going to have her play through and see what she thinks. She was around when I used to do this with our other mutual friend, so she already gets the idea and she thinks it's kind of cool. So, I already started this project a little while back, and then I ended up getting out of playing Minecraft, and only recently have I really come back into playing it. I've mostly been playing only on our shared server, sometimes my creative test world when I want to test a build before I put it into our shared server. But I'm going to show y'all what I have so far. I'm going to show y'all the basics, and then we're just going to keep building. So, as always, I like to build an entrance into the maze. Little button. And now you see we can't get out. The only way through is forward. So I built this little room, this little holding chamber basically. And you see here I have rules for the maze posted on signs. And I might come back and edit this room, but this is my placeholder room for now. So rule 1 is that the maze is to be played in survival with no cheats, no exploits, no mods, no hacks. Vanilla survival. Rule 2, the person completing the maze may not have any items in their inventory. Exception is unless you are given items in the maze in order to progress through the maze, and only for the specified amount of time that you're allowed to have the items in your inventory as necessary for the maze. Rule 3, no breaking blocks to break out of the maze. Exception unless directed to do so as part of a challenge. If you die, you lose. And Rule 5, in order to win, you have to reach the end of the last room and escape the maze alive. Now, typically, I make there be an escape to the maze in the last room where you're able to, like, use an elytra to get out, or use, like, a minecart to escape, or something like that. I've been debating if I want to change it to just being like, hey, there's a hidden, I've renamed a diamond and an anvil, and you have to find the diamond in order to win, put it in your inventory, or something like that. But these are the basic rules, and then once you press the button and go through this door, you're now in the maze. Now my maze is still under construction, but let me just give y'all an idea of how big I like to build these things. Okay, now this is floor 1, and what I like to do is I like to build up, so you escape floor 1 to go to floor 2, you escape floor 2 to go to floor 3, and this could go on 3 floors minimum, 10 or 12 floors, you know, like however many I want, and you never know how many floors you're going to get going in. I would never tell my friends, sometimes they'd only have to beat 3 floors. I think the most I ever did was like 6 or 7 floors. I'm wanting to make this one take a very, very, very long time, right? And I like each floor to have a different purpose, a different challenge. I don't want it to be just a copy and paste of the same challenge over and over and over. I like there to be different elements to keep it interactive. So in this maze, there are basically 4 quadrants, right? You have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, in order to escape this maze, in this quadrant right here, we have a door that you're going to have to find in the maze. You're going to have to go through it, and you're going to have to get to this door. But unfortunately, this is an iron door that is locked, and you have to unlock it. So over here in this fourth, you know, I called it 1, 2, 3, 4, but really you start out in this quadrant, the bottom left. Yeah, this kind of like bottom left, and you have to make your way through everything. So in order to unlock this door, you have to go all the way through the maze and get to this door, which is also locked. But when you unlock this door, you have the ability to unlock this door. So how do we unlock this door? Well, all the way closer to the entrance of the maze. It'll still take you a little bit to get there from the entrance. We have a hidden lever right over here. And you basically just flip this lever, and then that door unlocks, and then you flip the lever behind it, this door unlocks, and then you rework your way through the maze all the way over here. So this is very much, I put this at like a level 1, right? I say this is like my easy tier of maze. There's not going to be anything that's here that's going to kill you. You know, you don't have to try and survive any giant leaps or like run away from TNT, no monsters, things like that. I am going to turn the entire floor from grass into smooth stone, which is the same thing I'm using for the walls and the same thing I'm going to use for the ceiling. It's going to be nothing but smooth stone for days in this massive thing. So this entire thing really is a mind game. It's meant to mentally exhaust you. But otherwise, it is actually relatively easy. All you have to do is navigate the maze and find the first lever, find the second lever, then find the third lever, and get your way out. Now, typically the way I like to build these is so that you will usually find the exit. You'll usually find this door before you find any of the other levers. And the idea is that you'll find this door, and then you'll eventually find this door, but this door will be locked, and then you will eventually find the first lever and then have to like re-backtrack your way through. Now, there have been times when I've done stuff like this before, and they've actually ended up finding the first lever, and then the second lever, and the third lever, just like in perfect order. But the goal really is to get you to find where you need to go, and then try to figure out, okay, now how do I unlock this thing? How do I get there? And have to backtrack the entire way. This entire thing is literally meant just to waste your time and to be a long first section of the maze, because you think, oh hey, the maze is going to get harder the longer you go, so the first section should only take like a couple minutes, and then by the time you get to the end, it should be taking like 10 minutes, right? No. The first one is meant to take you for freaking ever so that you're mentally exhausted by the time you start going through the more challenging stuff that can kill you. That is the complexity of this maze. And yes, as I'm building it, I do make sure that these are possible. I don't have it all completely sectioned off. But technically, in order to do this, first you have to go over here. So you curve around this long part of section 2. As y'all can see, is accessible from section 1, where you come in the door. So you go through this little mazy-like part thing right here. Oh, and in order to hook everything up, I had to dig these holes. These holes are going to be covered with smooth stone. So all the way up through here, all the way up through here, all the way over here. Then you take a left. Then you go down this giant hall over here, all the way to over there. Then you have to backtrack. And then you get to the, over here, the second section of tracks. Again, I built most of this like months ago. Probably closer to a year ago, actually, now. It's been a while since I've last played. So I'm having to remember how to go through this maze. Like, I forgot even how to go through this maze. But that is a part of me testing it, is making sure I actually did. So first things first. In order to make sure I hooked up everything right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this first level of dirt off of everything, and the correct path is going to be covered in gold. All of the traps are going to be covered in stone, and once I have the gold and everything hooked up and I know everything's right, I'm going to replace all the gold with all the stone. And we're only breaking the first tier of grass for all of this. Those cows sound weird. I'm gonna have to kill them since they're getting into this area that I don't want them to be in. That's the one thing I don't like. So yeah, on this creative world, when I'm building mazes and stuff, I keep it to daytime only because I don't need monsters spawning. But the amount of livestock that you get spawning in your maze and that you have to keep killing over and over until you have the first layer built, completely done. It gets really annoying. No, y'all may not exist in here in my redstone, messing up my build. Get out. You sack of shit. Okay, I want a sword. Netherite sword, kill y'all faster. I do not need animals running around my redstone and being trapped under the maze and making noises all the time. Much better. Also, I can only guess how long this video is ultimately going to be. I can imagine, oh god, like 10 plus hours, 15 plus hours. I don't know, I might have to break it off into multiple sections for YouTube. I don't think they're going to be too happy if I try to upload like a 20-hour video. Like, I will actually spend a lot of time building my stuff. Like, I don't do like a, oh hey, 1-2 hour session and I'm done. I might do numerous, you know, multiple hour sessions. Yeah, for those of you who watch my other videos where I'm on my shared vanilla survival server with my friend, um, we're still in the process of building our mega base, which is going to be a giant castle. And a lot of the things that we're going to build and end up doing are things that I've done in my creative worlds in previous castles that I've built just for fun. But I'm also going to shake things up and do some new things that I've never done before. And that's just the thing. I don't really like to make one-for-one replicas of things that I've already done. I like to use them as bases for inspiration, but I always like to mix things up a little bit. I actually have a creative world where I've built a pretty impressive castle. I mean, it was done in creative, so I mean, you know, be way more impressive if no, if that were in survival, it would be basically impossible to build it. It's only because it's in creative, and that thing still took me months and months and months of building to be able to actually make it. I don't know if I've ever shown it off in a video before. I've shown my friends. Shown it to my friends, shown them the things it can do. I don't know if I've ever shown it on YouTube or on Twitch before, though. So maybe that can be another video, like, hey guys, look at something that I took all this stupid amount of time to build. And I guess the problem that I hit with that build, one of the reasons I stopped playing it, the entire thing was built on a swamp, and I had to build walls in the swamp, and then I had to drain the swamp, and then I had to terraform the swamp, and then I started building the castle and everything on the outside of the swamp, and then I basically started digging down and making rooms that went further and further underground into like a giant basement area, and then secret paths that went off into the walls and everything. And imagine like an anthill. You know how anthills go for like meters and meters and meters underground, like stupid long amounts? That's basically what I wanted that castle to be. Whereas, yeah, it was tall into the sky, but most of the stuff was actually hidden underneath it. The underneath base was like way, way larger. And I made this giant room, and I had an idea for it to make it like a treasure room. And I made this like giant pyramid and everything, and I wanted to make like the top part of the pyramid like a secret flying machine that would actually go to like the roof, to go to like the final secret treasure room and everything. And I was trying to figure out how to make that work. Overall, I'm still pretty happy with it though. Okay. So this is the initial path that you take to get I don't know, it not actually connecting. This is bothering me. To the first lever. Then you have to go back. Now we have to find our way to the second room. Okay, now I have to remember. I think there was like one or two ways to do this actually. I feel like if you go the very long way. Okay, well actually I know that this is easy because I know that the entrance all these are like little time waster traps. Okay, so you can take that way. You could take this path to get there, or you could take the stupid long path to get there. Like, it is possible. Also, when I'm building, I like to leave a 2 wide space in between the walls and in between the doors. I feel like a 1 wide space is just a little too claustrophobic, but I feel like anything more than 2 is just a little bit too open and wide. I feel like 2 is just claustrophobic enough that you're like, man, everything blends in too much and I can't really make any distinctive features. But like 1, I feel is just like, I would give up playing if it were only 1 wide. It's just a little bit too claustrophobic. And then 3, I feel like there's just too much breathing room. So again, I said you can go this way right here. When you do, you can go up here, go up and around here, go around here, and then it connects right here. I feel like there's also I feel like some of these ways I actually built multiple paths too. Because again, it's not like, this is only room 1 that I'm building, so like, 1, every room should be possible, no room should be impossible, but 2, room 1 really shouldn't be the hardest. That's why I only put some levers in here and I didn't put any death traps or anything too terribly crazy in room 1. Like, if you give it enough time, no matter how bad at this maze are, you will eventually get it. If you're not mentally weak and just decide to give up after 10, 20, 30 minutes, hour and a half of just aimlessly going. Like, eventually, you'll find one of the doors and you'll understand, oh hey, I'm supposed to find some kind of redstone to open this door or something. You'll have some kind of idea. I'm destroying my stone. Yeah. And because this also connects here. It's all correct pathing. But yeah, technically this is also correct pathing too. Okay, that works, but I feel like if you go this ridiculously long way over here, I think I made this connect. I did make it connect. I made it connect right here. So as y'all can see, there's a lot of ways in this quadrant that you can go to connect to that door. Now to connect, let's just start trying to connect it this way. I've already made my point that this area, that's the entire idea is just to make sure that I didn't actually make it to where you can't get to a door and accidentally block it off. And I've already proven you can go multiple ways that way. I don't need to gold all of it. Considering I'm going to get rid of all the gold and switch it all to smooth stone anyway. I'm not going to be leaving that coloring there. Otherwise it would make it too damn obvious. Now, one thing I did in the past, which I actually thought was kind of interesting that my friends didn't even catch on to, is like I will use these outer walls and build up, and then I'll build the ceiling will basically be the floor of the next one. And what I actually did was I copied the correct route on the floor in like gold blocks to be the walls of the second room. So the walls of the second room were actually the path you had to take for the first room. I just did that as like a little Easter egg. And it's funny because they didn't notice I used the different coloring. And I kept doing that. The walls to the third room were the correct pathing for the second room, and the fourth room to the third room, and all that. And I just thought it was funny because it's like, hey, I'm showing you all the answer after you already did the work. Lol, lol, lol. And I thought that was kind of funny. Now all that right there is just a trap. You have to go this long, stupid way. I don't think this other way, though, leads you to... Yeah, that other way is literally just a waste of time. So yeah, long way there. So now we have the entry door connects to the first lever. The first lever now connects to the secondary door with the second lever. And then all we have to do now is make sure that the third door connects up with anything. And I do believe that is this path right here. We go up this way, this long way, we go this way. Yeah, fine. Okay. Okay. So you could go this way. So yes, it does connect up. Because you could just take this path that I'm going to dig out right here. think I said this is downward path. Here we go, that connects up. And now y'all can see there's at least one valid path. But technically you could also go this way and go the right path. Technically you could also go this way and go the right path. This way. There's like multiple ways you could take the right path, but the entire idea is just to show that there are multiple ways. So there would be a little bit more gold filled in this sector right here, but for the most part, the gold shows the correct pathing that you can take. Now that we know definitively that we have made sure that level 1 is solvable, we need to go and fill in all the floor with smooth stone. Then we need to build up the walls. I need to build the stairway or whatever I'm going to build up here in the middle. Then we need to build the floor of the next level. And I say the easiest way to do it is just find one corner and start working on it. So let's start with the door starts and work our way out from the doorway. So now we're going to re-break all these gold blocks that we just put down. And we're going to replace everything with smooth stone. Because for floor 1, we want to maintain a very monotonous, just simple style. We don't want to have different walls and different floors and different decorations. We want everything to just blend in and mesh with itself. That is part of the mental warfare going on when you are having to complete level 1 of this maze. This is being built on bedrock, by the way. I've played Java in the past, but like most of my experience is on bedrock because I started playing on the PS4 on the PS4 edition before Microsoft bought it out and started making you play the Microsoft version. And bedrock is like the closest version to the PS4 version. And I started playing Bedrock so I could play on like online servers with friends on my console. And so that we could easily like play online together and stuff like that. And then when of course Microsoft took over, I started playing Bedrock on the PS4. But now that I have the game on PC, I've played a little bit on Java. I haven't really played it too long on Java. But for the most part, I don't really play with mods. I really just like the vanilla experience. Like, I know there's some really cool mods out there, um, and I know I'm missing out on some of them. I might eventually make a world with mods, or start putting mods in my worlds, but I don't know. So, like, I feel when you change the game too much, it just no longer really is Minecraft. It's no longer really, you know, that fun. But you have to decide for yourself, when do you hit that point? What do you have to do in order to break Minecraft for it to no longer really be that fun for you? And mods are there to make the game more fun for people who really get tired with the vanilla experience. And I can understand that, because, like, I experience this with every game I play. But, like, I will eventually get burnt out on playing a video game and not want to touch it for like a year or so. I think the last time I played, I think, was before they actually added the trial chambers. I know they added the cherry trees, I know they added the sniffers, and I remember they were talking about putting the trial chambers in. I don't know if that update actually came out right before I stopped, or if I stopped like before that update came out. But that's like the last thing. And like, apparently they've had like wind charges come out that I haven't messed with, and they've had all kinds of other stuff come out, and now we're about to be getting these happy gas coming out and everything. So I have all that to look forward to. But yeah, like, some people like Java because they can use like the command blocks, and they can use like all these exploits, and they can use all these cheats and everything. And I mean, you can use some of that in Bedrock too. But I'm like, you know, if I really wanted to, like when I'm clearing a mountain, you know, I could just do command fill air from this coordinate to this coordinate, you know, just fill everything with air, and I could delete like an entire mountain, or I could at least delete it by chunks at a time. And I've done that in creative, in one of my servers, because it was taking me for freaking ever to, even with creative, like flying like like fast, I was having to clear, you know, like 10,000, you know, 20,000, however stupid many blocks, you know, by hand. And I was like, you know, I've spent weeks clearing blocks, and I'm not even halfway done. I could do it in an instant, you know, with just getting coordinates by flying around and then typing that into the console, and you do it, and you're like, oh hey, now this area is finally cleared out, you know, in a matter of a few seconds. Now I can do this, this, and this. But you're like, I could also just spawn these objects, and I could copy and paste this object, and I could do X, Y, and Z using commands and using all this stuff. Like, it's in the game, it's coded into the game. I'm not even having to download extra stuff to change the game files to do it. But you're like, at what point do you stop actually playing the game, you know, when you start doing all this stuff? And when you start modding it too much, you know, when do you eventually lose the original entertainment value? So that's why I tend to play almost exclusively completely vanilla, without commands, without anything else. Heck, as y'all have seen in our server, we're using basic iron tools to clear out this giant space. We're not using enchantments, we're not using a beacon. I mean, not that we're even strong enough to be able to get a beacon or the materials to build one yet, but still. And you're like, yeah, it's not the most fun experience. It's constantly, like, it can be fun for a while. It could be nice just mindlessly breaking blocks and doing stuff, but you'll see that's why we change up, like, hey, I'm mining, no, I'm gonna go mine this area, and I'm gonna flatten this, and I give myself different, like, miniature goals while I'm doing it, just to kind of keep it from being too terribly repetitive. And I have seen some cool mods out there I would like to try. There's one that lets you turn into like every different kind of mob in the game and use their special abilities, and that one's kind of cool. But I really feel like, although you'd get novelty out of that if you were playing that on like a regular dedicated server, like, it's just, oh hey, you know, I can turn into this thing and I can fly. I don't even have to traverse the anything, and I don't have to wait until I can get an elytra to fly. And, you know, like I feel like that just kind of takes all the challenge out of the game. Oh, hey, now I can turn into the fastest flying creature. Now I can turn into a skeleton, and monsters won't come after me because, you know, I'm one of them now. You know, I'm a creeper and I can explode and kill everything and I won't even die from it. And then I can just change myself back into another creeper and do it over and over and over and have basically infinite TFT. Um, and I don't know, it's like, yeah, it's cool for a little bit, but I feel like a lot of these are, you know, like they're just too major, they're too game breaking, and it just devalues the experience. Admittedly, though, I think the one feature from Java that I do miss on Bedrock is the Nether Roof, which I understand that that was an unintentional thing in Java and that they've just decided never to fix it in Java. It, you know, but I do feel like if that's something that they would program into Bedrock also, that that would be, you know, a greatly needed feature. I feel like that would be cool. But like aside from that, I know Redstone functions a little bit differently between the two versions, so I know some things that work in Bedrock don't work in Java and vice versa. Although I know a lot of farm builds that I've looked up online and stuff I end up building actually work pretty well between both builds, um, Java and Bedrock. So there is some overlap with them. Whoops. Excuse me. But that's another thing. I like giant builds that take a stupid amount of, you know, I just like giant projects in general. Projects that I know are going to take me a stupid amount of time to be able to complete. So on the one hand, I like always having goals. I don't like it when I'm like, hey, I've done everything that I really want to do. I have no idea what I want to do, and then I lose interest and I get bored and I stop playing the game. So if I have a project that I'm working on that I can be making progress on, I definitely prefer that. Away, chicken. But I also feel like when you're finally done, the more time that you spent on whatever project that you were doing, the more satisfying it is to see once it's done. I also feel like the more ideas you get to test, and when you do future builds, that's more ideas that you can be inspired to do and improve on. That's why I like to build mega bases, because I know that they're going to take me forever, and I know that my creative process is going to change each time I'm doing it, and I know that even while I'm doing it, my ideas might change. They take forever to build, especially when you're doing them in a survival world, and you have to gather all the resources, and you aren't using any like hacks or cheats or exploits or mods or anything to help you out. Admittedly, though, there is one mod that I actually would like that I have not been able to find for Java or for Bedrock, and that is to bring the original PS4 version of Minecraft's crafting table to PC. Admittedly, having the recipe book with all kinds of recipes where you just click on what you want and it like puts everything in is, you know, closer to it. But the console edition, at least, I never played it on Xbox, and I didn't get to play the original Switch version. I only started playing the Switch version after it was already Bedrock, and it already has the same crafting as Bedrock on the PC. So I don't know if it was the same crafting for every console version, or if PS4 just got its own exclusive crafting table. But the crafting table for the PS4 console edition is the best crafting I have seen in Minecraft. For those of you who don't know what it is or what it looks like, it simplifies things, right? I'm trying to think of how to describe it other than the fact that it's like, it feels like this version of crafting on the PC is very overloaded. There's a lot of menus, there's a lot of options, there's a lot going on, and it can easily feel overwhelming, especially a new player or someone who's not used to it. Whereas the console edition had separate tabs for everything, so it had like tools and weapons, and you'd click on the tools and weapons tabs, and then you could see the tools and weapons, and you click on what you want, it automatically fills it in and makes it for you. And then you could put like, hey, I want to, you know, just keep making this, and you can just keep making this, and be like, okay, I want a bed, so now I go under the, whatever tab, you know, that was, like all the cloth related stuff and everything, and it would make that. You had like one for like gears and weapons, you had one for I think like furniture and stuff where you could build like doors, you build everything, but they had it categorized, so under like 6 or 7 different categories. And that's all you had to do is say, oh hey, the item I want is in this category. L1 or R1 to go left and right between categories, and then in the categories you saw the pictures, and it would be like a picture of a sword, and then you'd go to the sword, and then you could travel through between the different versions of the swords and figure out which one you want to create, and it would create it for you. And be like, okay, well here's the tools, here's the pickaxe, here's the hoe, here's the shovel, here's the regular axe, you know, and you just choose which one you want. It had the pictures of each of them, and it had their name, and it also had a button where you could click a description to show you what it's used for. So you're like, hey, a sword, what's this? And it's like a primary melee weapon that deals damage to monsters. You know, or you'd be like, a shovel, what's this good for? And it'd be like, a shovel is a tool used for digging, you know, softer blocks like dirt and sand and gravel more efficiently. And you're like, okay, cool, but then there would be stuff like redstone components, like a comparator. Oh, well, what's this for? And it was like, oh, well, a comparator compares the outputs of like 2 different inputs and like, you know, puts out an output bit, you know, and it would actually describe, you know, what each thing did. So if you had no idea what an item was, you didn't then have to back out of your game to use your computer to go search Google or pull out your smartphone and go outside of game to figure out what something in-game does. It just told you what each item did, and it was pretty cool. And again, it was just by a simple click of a button, and you could easily swap between stuff and have that mode on. You're like, okay, now I'm looking at this item, automatically shows me what it does. Now I'm looking at this item, so you didn't even have to click the button each time. You could just toggle it on if you wanted to keep it on. And because it reduced how much was on each page, you could easily look at everything on a page, you know, within just a moment or two, and understand, oh hey, this is going to be in this menu, this is going to be in this menu, and it'll automatically craft this thing for me because I have this thing, or it'll tell me what I'm missing. And it'll be like, oh hey, you need 3 sticks and you only have 2 sticks. You need to go grab 1 more stick and then you can craft this, or you're missing a stone block. It just made everything simplified and gave a lot more information to the user to understand without feeling like they were being overcrowded with visual information. Like, visual noise is the best way to describe it, because when I started playing the PC version of Minecraft, that's what it felt like to me. Was just like, hey, there's so much going on my screen that my brain can't even compute what's going on, and it hurts my eyes to look at. And it's like trying to listen to something important, like a lecture, while having people around you like blasting loud music over speakers, but like so loud that you can't even, like, I don't know. Have you ever heard a song that you actually really like, you listen to a lot, but someone has like these like giant ass speakers, like it's a concert, and they're blowing it at like a million, percent. And you're like, this is so loud that I can't even appreciate like my favorite song, or like whatever. Like, it hurts to listen to. But like the equivalent of that, but like for your eyes, where you're like, there's so much going on that like I can't even process this. That's how that felt to me, and it took a while for me to be able to get used to it. I'm definitely very thankful that I started out playing the PS4 version, because if I had seen that without at least having an understanding, a basic understanding of what was going on, I mean, let me put it like this. I tried the PC edition of Minecraft while I still had the PS4 edition of Minecraft, and I saw that crafting system, and that alone got me to uninstall Minecraft and decide I was only ever playing on console again. It was bad. But I feel like having that experience already by the time that I decided to give the PC edition another try helped. I feel like if I hadn't already had that base understanding of what the crafting was like and what it was about and everything, and I had all that at once, I literally would never have played Minecraft again. I would have just uninstalled it and been like, nah, F this game. I hate its interface way too bad. But they did eventually add the crafting book, where it's like, oh hey, you don't have to remember all these recipes, and you don't have to actually physically put everything in this order. And if you put the same ingredients in, but like in a different order, and they make a different shape, then you get a different tool, or it'll even tell you just that it won't make anything because you didn't put it in. I feel like that's probably the single stupidest thing that Minecraft has ever done. Was, oh, you have to put your items in like a specific order, otherwise you'll get the wrong item, or it'll just say that that's not a crafting recipe and you won't get shit at all, even though you have all the right items, because this stick is 1 block to the left of where it should have been placed in the crafting table. And I'm just like, I get it. In theory, it sounds like it's kind of a cool idea, but in practice, it's a bitch. Like, it just, no. Ooh, okay, that is a little less than a fourth of this maze done. Well, the floor of part 1 done, anyway, I should say. Oh, that noise was scary. Um, but yeah, so one thing I've never done before, I'll have to figure out how to do it, um, is like when I do finally finish this maze, I mean, obviously, my video series, whether this is one incredibly long video or whether it's multiple incredibly long videos that detail how this maze has been done, in which I'd like to get your comments, get your feedback as you're watching this video or these videos, however it's going to end up being done. I do not know yet, but is like, what do y'all think? Do y'all think it's a cool idea? Do you think this is something that you would do with your friends? I'm also going to figure out how to get the download of this world once I have the maze finished and have it on my, at least, description of the video or like the final video, however that works, for y'all to be able to download and be able to play it with your friends and everything. Now, obviously, y'all are seeing how this is being built, so if y'all go to play this maze, y'all are gonna, know the answer and everything ahead of time. But if y'all still think, hey, it looks like fun, I want to try it, I'll leave that for y'all. And I'll leave it in case y'all like, oh, hey, my friends want to have seen this video, let's show them this. Hey, guys, come try this out. See if this looks fun to y'all. Or maybe you'll have ideas, hey, when you build your next maze, you can include an idea like this, you can include a trap like this, maybe you could make the solution this. If y'all have, any suggestions, or if this inspires you to make your own mazes, and y'all want to share them and be like, hey, I made mine, and instead of doing this, I did this, and I liked this, and I took this idea and, expanded it with this. However, um, leave any kind of comments, questions, conversations, and the entire idea of my channel is just have fun. By far, I'm not one of the big YouTubers. I'm by far not even one of the big Minecrafters. But, I like to have fun, and I hope that when you're watching my video, that through whatever stupid stuff I'm doing, y'all enjoy, or at least through whatever commentary I provide, you're like, hey, I kind of agree with this, or I don't agree with this, and, this is the hill I'm going to die on, so let's start an argument in the comments. I am fine with that, too. If you disagree with what I say, feel free to, let me know why you disagree. See if you can't change my mind on something, teach me something I don't already know. I'm not going to ban or block you or report you or anything like that. That's the entire idea of these videos, is to get more interaction with people in the community. And just more people in general. I think that's one of my favorite parts about streaming, is when y'all comment on my videos, and especially when I can ever get like an actual conversation or something going based on it in the comments. Like, I watch other people do reactions and stuff, and you'll have one person makes a reply, and then 100 people make replies to that, just keeping it going and expanding on the ideas. And I like that idea. Then again, I also know that my Minecraft videos are probably my least watched videos out of all the games I play. Most of the people here on my channel prefer to watch my Repels videos, which was honestly the original idea I started streaming anyway, was to bring more attention to the game Repels, but I definitely need breaks from that game. Although I think, other than reaction videos, people watching my favorite animes or movies and reacting to them, I think Minecraft videos are probably some of my favorite YouTube videos to watch, because there is no end to the creativity that people go into in creating these stupid massive builds and redstone contraptions that I couldn't even begin to fathom on my own. And I like to gain inspiration from other people and be like, oh hey, that's kind of cool, maybe I could mess around with redstone and maybe I could do something similar. Or, oh hey, maybe it's not similar, but watching this person do this kind of makes me want to see if I can't do this now, do this other related thing. And then, or oh hey, this person built a redstone contraption that would be very useful to me in my survival world, but maybe as I did in my charcoal farm, I was like, they built it, but it was only too wide. And I was like, I'm going to need something bigger than this. How can I expand it? And I start trying to learn how to expand it, and I run into problems and I have to fix it. I'm like, oh, hey, I finally jerry-rigged this thing together. And now, instead of being 2 wide, it's now 8 wide. No, hey, but that gives me this problem. But now I've solved this problem with this. And, now I've taken their initial thing and I've just, improved it for my needs anyway. I'll say a lot of what I've learned about Minecraft has been learned by watching other people play this game. Did I really mess up and make all these 3 wide instead of 2 wide? That's annoying. I'm gonna fix that. I am going to fix this. I like to be consistent with my 2s. except for when I absolutely have to throw it off. See, what time is it actually? It's 5 o'clock. I have a little while. I have to work overnight tonight. It's only 5:13 p.m. right now. I have to double check what time I work, but I'm pretty sure I need to be like either leaving or getting ready by about like 9 o'clock. But I doubt I'm going to be playing this for another 4 hours anyway. I would hope that it won't take me that long to finish doing the floor of this level and then building up the walls of this level. And then I'll probably stop before I actually start on level 2. And I might just do it that way, is like make working on each level be its own video. So this would be probably video 1, which was just showing you all what has already been built and finishing up level 1, and then I'll do level 2 and however many videos that takes, and then I'll do level 3 in another video, because I would have to see what the limit on how long your videos on YouTube can be. I also might try to upload this video to my Twitch and see how long videos on Twitch can be when they're being uploaded. But honestly, if I built like I feel like if I made, my typical videos are like 1 to 3 hours, right? Um, and sometimes they'll get views. The Minecraft ones maybe get only like 1 or 2 views. But like if I made like a 20-hour video, like I feel that's like the thing they're doing with shows right now. They're like, hey, would you rather watch like a 10-hour movie, or would you rather watch a Netflix show that has 10 episodes that are 1 hour each? And everyone's like, oh yeah, we'll binge watch the TV show. You know, it's 10 hours either way, but if you say it's a 10-hour movie, like, no one's gonna watch it. No one's gonna want to sit still for 10 hours. No one's gonna have to want to pause it at a random point and just come back because they got too tired of watching. So I feel like when your video becomes too long, like, no one's gonna watch it just because they're like, oh, it's hours and hours and hours. But like when you chop it up into like videos, people are like, oh, it's only an hour. It's only, you know, like 30 or 45 minutes. Why not? And then if they really like it, they're like, okay, let's watch the next one. Okay, let's watch the next one. And they'll end up spending that same amount of time watching, but you know, it's like a mental trick. So like if I uploaded like a 20-hour video, who's going to watch that versus whether I upload like 20 different 1-hour videos, or, you know, even like 10, you know, 2-hour videos. But we'll see. I definitely won't be uploading these videos though before my friend has actually played the maze, because I don't want her. I mean, honestly, I don't think she watches either of my channels, let's be honest. Um, like, she'll stream with me and like we'll upload to our channels and stuff and give each other credit for being in each other's videos, but I don't really think she goes through and actively watches. There's only a couple YouTubers she actually watches, and she'll every now and then watch one of her friends like Twitch streams probably, but like not that often. But still, I'll record the video where she actually plays the maze, and she'll probably want to record that too and put that on her own Twitch and everything, and her own YouTube. And then I'll upload this video series is like how I made the maze after that, which we'll probably live stream that together, and then probably do this as a series of like behind the scenes. So hey, here's how the maze came to be, right? So by the time y'all are watching this video, y'all will probably have already seen the video that does not yet exist while I am recording this, of her actually attempting to play the maze. Like, I know no one's ever gonna see this anyway, but like, it still annoys me because I've seen it now. Consistency. Okay. Oh yeah, and then this one over here, I don't think I did. Or no, I did. I feel like there's another like little miniature one section I skipped, but I feel like it's still over here and I just haven't gotten to it yet because I did that one. Okay. Well, we're like about, what, halfway done with the flooring of this maze now? Or level 1 of the maze. Also, to those of you who have actually watched my videos, I do apologize because I'm really not good with video editing, like at all. Um, like I've played around with it. I'm really better at like PowerPoint slideshows than I am with like actual video. But like y'all know, I just like clip my streams together and stuff. I don't have like fancy intros and fancy outros and like smooth transitions from like one stream to another. And like whereas other people could record like 20 hours of footage and then they could cut it down to, like 30 minutes, but still use clips, like clip its from like each part, and they could make it look smooth without there being any like overlap, without any like gaps in like time or anything. Like I'm not good at that. I cannot do that to save my life. And this is not a professional channel. I'm not spending any money on marketing. I'm not spending any money on people to, make custom music and, stuff for my channel, or to help me with like video editing or anything like that. Because that's really not the purpose of this channel. I mean, yeah, sure, it would be cool if I got a lot of people who just like really loved my stuff and, were like, hey, we want to see you record more and everything. We can't wait until your next video drops or anything like that. I mean, yeah, that's definitely really cool. And for those of you who do comment on my videos and who do watch them, it really does mean a lot to me, actually. So yeah, thank you. But on the other hand, I'm sorry that I'm just, my channel is not going to be nearly as attractive as some of these other people that have all these like fancy video editing and like intro and outro and, all that stuff. I'm not good at it. And I really don't have the money to be paying other people to edit all this stuff and make professional quality stuff for me. And as much as I've tried to play around with stuff like that, it gets too frustrating and too complicated for me. Do I really want to tear all this apart just to make it be smooth stone? I guess. I already have this stuff to rebuild anyway. Yep, it works. I really want to get VR just so I can play Minecraft in VR, because imagining just flying all the way up to the clouds in VR and being like, wee! Like, there's times when just like looking down and doing it on my TV already makes me feel like I'm falling and gives me that kind of falling sensation. So imagine doing it in VR. Like, that would be like the coolest, like, You know, like those giant bounce rides, like towers, like especially at Six Flags, where they take you like 200 feet in the air and then they drop you from like the height of the tower. You know, that's what it would feel like just every time I play Minecraft, and I think that would be cool. Although this lever is like really weird, and I don't know why the hitbox for it like doesn't recognize my clicks on it. You have to be at like a very specific angle for it to actually work. Because I've been like spam right clicking the entire time. It's been not doing anything. But yeah, it's starting to come together. Of course, the pig had to join. So I do this little section right here. There's still so much left to do. You know, I think what would be cool, like, you know how, okay, you have stone naturally generates in the game, you harvest it with an axe, and you get cobblestone. If you have silk touch, then you keep the regular stone. And the way it works is you can put cobblestone in a furnace to make it into, you can basically smelt cobblestone into stone, and you smelt the stone that you get into smooth stone. I think it would be cool if there was like a smelting enchantment. So like you have your basic your pickaxe that turns it into cobblestone. Silk touch turns it, keeps it as regular stone, but with like a smelting, you could just automatically turn it into smooth stone when you harvest it. And I'm sure there's other blocks that are like that too. Like imagine if you had smelting on your shovel, all the glass, all the sand you break would just instantly turn into glass for you to pick up. So silk touch would, so like regular would give you like the sand, um, but like smelting would make it turn into glass. And just have smelting on like anything, so it, does stuff like that. I think it would be kind of, like, not kind of niche, but I think it would be kind of cool. And I mean, honestly, I know it could be made into a mod. And that's like bringing me back to my ranting from earlier about, when does the game stop being fun? And it's like I can think of all kinds of ideas, like, hey, I think this would be a cool add-on, but then they're like, oh, but you already do this, smelting it in the furnace. So if they added this enchantment, now smelting in the furnace as a mechanic would be, completely useless. It would make it more convenient for the player, but now this entire mechanic in the game would be useless. So it's like, even when I have a cool idea, I'm like, oh, hey, this would be kind of a cool idea. I'm kind of like, is it kind of just a cool idea, or is it something that I'm like, yeah, I think this would actually be a really good idea, and I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know. Because I feel like I think like game balance in any game is probably like the single hardest part of the game. And it's like, how do we keep the game fun? And it's like, yeah, we can add all these cool new features that make the game easier for people, that like, expedite things, but then you're like, but we already have mechanics that exist for doing these. We can improve our mechanics, definitely, but we don't want to make our mechanics useless. Like, I know other YouTubers have talked about this, like, back when I started playing the PS4 edition, if you tamed an ocelot, it stayed an ocelot. But now ocelots has turned into house cats, so, aside from just putting an ocelot on a lead and tying it to a post somewhere, and not really taming it so that you can actually keep the ocelot if you want to collect, like, the different animals in the game, there's literally no purpose in taming an ocelot, because you can always just tame a house cat from a village anyway. Like, that's a mechanic that they got rid of. And I'm like, I feel like this mechanic added something to the game, but now that y'all got rid of this mechanic, it's like y'all took something away from the game. And it's like, anytime you want to add a new feature, or you want to make an old feature better, you don't want to basically just get rid of a feature. You don't want to just make other features still exist, but be completely pointless and be completely useless. You want there to at least be some kind of trade-off, like, hey, we're going to make this mechanic that does the same thing as this other mechanic, but it does it better, but there's going to be a trade-off. It has to do something else worse, so you still have a reason to use the original mechanic as well, and you have to decide, in this situation I would use mechanic 1, or in this situation I would use mechanic 2, so that you don't make any mechanics completely obsolete, and that's just all about balancing it. And I feel like that's probably the hardest thing for every single game out there to do, is balancing mechanics. And like, I used to play some of the trading card, they call them trading card games, like collectible card games, but think of like Magic the Gathering and stuff like that, Hearthstone. Big one I was into was actually the My Little Pony collectible card game back in the day, made by Interplay. And I used to collect all the cards. I got like con-signed cards. I got cards that were, signed by the actual developers who actually made the cards. And I used to play in local tournaments. And I mean, really, I collected the cards, and like, I like to play the game casually. It kind of suffered the same thing that like all card games do, and that's like, there's, in each set there's like 3 to 5 meta decks, and if you're playing those meta decks, then you win all the time, and those meta decks just like rock, paper, scissors each other, where it's like this deck beats this deck, and this deck beats this deck, but every single one of those decks beat every non-meta deck that aren't one of the, top tier elite decks. And that's one reason, that's just one of the reasons I stopped playing that game. and collecting the cards, but they also always have to have like ban cards. Like, oh hey, you can't use this card in competition because it gives you an unfair advantage. It's just too overpowered. It's too strong. And then like the developers in another set will make cards that just completely counter previous overpowered cards. Like, okay, this card, you know, basically will always have its effect hit first before this other card if both cards are played, and this thing completely negates this other card and then does this, and then those cards are getting too overpowered and become the meta, and then they have to get banned, you know, but and then they still keep the old ban list, and they just add this onto the ban list on top of that, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like if you're going to make a game where the entire idea is to collect all the damn cards so that you can build all these cool decks, I feel like having a solution to be to ban the cards from play is a very lousy and a very lazy solution. But that all again comes back to balancing. But that's just one reason I stopped playing card games like that in general, is just because you always have to keep up with the newest cards. The old cards become obsolete because either they get banned for being too powerful, or they just flat out get countered by all the new sets and all the new cards, and they become unplayable anyway. And I don't want that same thing to really happen in Minecraft, where like, hey, we're gonna add this mechanic, but now these other mechanics are basically unplayable because, you know, it's like, imagine you have chests and then you have double chest, right? Well, let's imagine that you could craft a double chest that had like 5 times the amount of storage in it and still took up, you know, the same amount of space as a double chest. Like, it looked like a double chest, but it was a slightly different color or skin, but you opened it and it has like way more storage space in it, you know. Unless you're making that thing cost way more resources, which even if you did, you know, who's still going to craft a regular, you know, 2 regular chests and put them together to make a regular double chest instead of just using that new epic chest? Because let's be honest, every single thing in this game you can farm. So you're like, oh hey, this is like really expensive to make. Well, guess what? I'll just make a wood farm and I'll produce like 100 times the amount of wood I normally would in order to make up for it. Or oh hey, this thing takes iron. Well, guess what? I'm going to start an iron farm and now I'm going to have an infinite supply of iron. So it doesn't matter if this thing is expensive. I now have, you know, infinitely much iron anyway. So, you know, you introduce something that's good, that's that good, everyone's gonna use it, and then like everything that's not as good as it becomes obsolete. So yeah, balance it. Everything in balance. That's, I guess, what my rant is about. I don't know. I just kind of like rant randomly, and then like I don't even know what I'm gonna say. It's just like I just keep going and I keep going, and I just let my thoughts keep flowing until they just stop. Somewhere in there, there's a coherent idea. Anyway. This damn chicken has been in my way. What the shit? Oh, no. I do like those blocks of iron, too. But did I even use blocks of iron in my original building over here? I might have. Like, why do I have blocks of iron in my inventory? I don't think I used them in... Oh, yeah, I used them for the floor in here. For the gradient. to make it a swap battle. You know, good thing I actually did that because, oh, well, I haven't even touched this area yet, but yeah, I basically would have just completely forgotten. Oh shit, I just did something stupid. Oh, it was the door. Okay, now that I did that nonsense, let's finish this area up before I move back to that first area and finish that up. But speaking of the My Little Pony collectible card game, it was actually fun, and like, you know, each card game has its own kind of niche, and they all kind of share some mechanics from each other, but like they go their own direction about it. For those of you who've never played it, whether you're into My Little Pony or not, the basic idea is that each person would have two decks. They would have a deck of problem cards, and they would have their character deck. And you would always have 10 problem cards in your problem card deck. You would have to have one labeled as a starting card that was always worth 1 point, and then your other problem cards could be worth anywhere between 1 to 3 points. And in order to solve problems, they would require that you have different amounts of like characters at that problem in order to solve it. So like your starting problem might require that you have 3 characters at it to solve that problem, right? And if you solve it, you get 1 point. And for every turn that you continue to solve it, you continue to get another point. And your opponents can also solve your problems, and you can also solve your opponent's problems. And if you're both solving the same problem at the same time, then you force a duel. And the duel is basically like my characters each have so many points associated with them. So this one character might be worth 1 point, but this other character might be worth 2 points. And you would add up the points of your characters, and whichever characters had the most points won. So if I had 2 characters, one worth 1 point and one worth 2 points, I would have 3 points on my characters. But they might have 2 characters or 2 points each, giving them 4 points. So their 4 would beat my 3, and they would beat the problem. They would get the point for the problem, and they would get a bonus point for being the one to win the little battle, they called them. And then once a problem was beat, you'd just put it in the bottom of the problem deck, and then you would start the next one. And if you're beating both problems at a time, you'd get points for both problems. And if you both are solving both problems at both times, then you would start a double war, which was, or a double battle, however they called it, or conflict, I think. Whatever their terminology was. This has been years and years and years since I last played. Then it would be all characters on the board, add up their totals, and see who has like the most. And then you had like a home where all your characters would return to from battle, but your home could only fit so many characters in it, depending on who your basically hero that you chose was. And so any excess had to go into like a discard pile. And then you could play more from your hand, and you could either play them directly to your home or directly to a problem, based on whether you wanted to force a war or whether you wanted to, like, you know, save up your allies and wait before you start the conflict. Whatever terminology they used back then for it. And then there would be like a set amount of points. I think it was like 12 or 15 points total, and the first person to reach that would win. And like cards would have different special effects, and they were colored into like group categories. So there was like the pink deck, the purple deck, the yellow deck, the blue deck. And it was like the yellow deck is all about small creatures that power each other up. So maybe, you know, this one only has 1 point to it, but it gives plus 1 point to all your other yellow creatures that are also in play. And maybe this yellow creature, when you play it, also summons another, you know, 1 point creature. So it's all about creatures buffing each other up. And you would always mix 2 colors together. You couldn't play one color because the requirements to the problem to solve them would always be like, you know, 2 characters or like 2 points from this color, and then like 1 point or 3 points or however many of like any other color. So you could do like any color combinations you want, but it was always 2 colors to start out with. And you could kind of play 3 colors, but it was really hard to do because you were only allowed to have so many cards in your deck, and I'm wanting to say it was like 25 cards in a deck. It was like something small, right? And it would be hard to get all the necessary colors out there that you needed if you were trying to play 3 colors to get as many points as you needed to actually solve the problems and win the conflicts if you were trying to do more than 2 colors at a time. Now in a later set, I think set 3 or something, they actually started, set 3 or set 4, they started introducing where cards that required you to play 3 colors in your deck and change some of the rules and everything. And of course, a lot of the cards from the first couple sets got banned for being overpowered or completely countered. But I went to BronyCon in 2012, not 2012, 2014. 2014, I went to BronyCon, and they actually had some of the card developers there. They had 3 of them there. And if you beat them in a one-on-one, then they would give you a special signed card that they had designed and that they had also signed. And they were at a table together, and you were in a line, and basically you would just play them one after the next. So you'd play the first one starting in like the left seat, and then when you were done, you'd get up, and when the person in the middle seat was done, they'd get up, you'd go to the middle seat, they'd go to the right seat, then eventually you'd get up, go to the right seat while someone else is starting to the left, and you got, you know, one chance to beat each of the 3 of them in 3 just consecutive battles. And it's funny because I've always liked the idea in card games of, I'm trying to think of the word that they call it, but like basically forced discard mechanics and like drawing from your discard pile and things like that. And so the yellow deck was all about those like creatures buffing each other up. It was very commonly paired with the blue deck, which was all about speed, being able to play multiple cards at a time, or instead of using your turn to put one character on a problem at a time, you'd be able to take like multiple characters. You'd like play one card that was like bring along like +2 friends with you, so you could put like 3 cards at a problem per turn instead of like 1. It was all about basically being able to move more allies across the board in a shorter amount of time. You had like the purple deck, which had a little bit of like movement manipulation, but with like I think a little bit of like buffing and powering up in it. I think it had stuff like, you know, move a character, move an enemy from, you know, away from a problem back to their home, or, you know, like move a character to move a character, you know, if you're in battle, move a character to a problem and give it like +2 or something for this battle, or, you know, stuff like that. There was the white deck. The white deck also had some like battle control stuff, but the white deck also had some discard mechanics to it. There was an orange deck, which was all about just really strong characters. So like they'd be, you know, like +5 or like +6 in strength, but you could only like play one at a time or move one at a time, so it was like really slow gameplay. But when they were at a problem or they were used in a conflict, they had like the most strength points, you know, to win and to guarantee your victory. The pink deck had a lot of discard mechanics to it and like draw random card mechanics to it when certain things happen. And in set 1, they never really meant to have a specific like you know, discard and draw from a discard kind of mechanic like I liked, but certain pink and certain white cards had stuff like that that kind of paired well together. The only problem is that they didn't really have a lot of other stuff going on for them that would be useful. But I actually managed to put a few purple cards in, which again in the first set, it was considered trolling to have 3 colors in like one deck. It really wasn't good. But I basically used some of the mechanics of the white, some mechanics of the pink, and some of the mechanics of purple together. to be able to force this deck to work, where basically you could force yourself and your opponent to put your entire decks into your discard pile, which you couldn't draw from your discard pile unless you had cards that allowed you to, which the white allowed you to draw from the discard. And you could also have things called villains that would be played at problems, and no one was allowed to solve the problem unless they could beat the villain. And I had villains that would make people like put their hands into their discard, and if you tried to put characters at the problem to be able to solve the problem, it could force those into the discard pile. I had villains that would like allow you to draw a random card from your discard pile, or that would allow you to choose a card out of your opponent's hand at random and make them discard it like once every turn. And I just combined all these different things to basically stall the game out, so that no matter what they tried to do, they were always having to discard their hands and not have any playable characters. And the characters that they would have on the field wouldn't be strong enough to overturn my villains and to be able to solve the problems, and all of that. And I got to put all my stuff into my discard pile, and then only have like 1 or 2 cards in my home base that were safe, that when I would play them out onto the field would allow me to then go into my discard pile and search for the cards I wanted that were in there, and just keep playing them in basically infinite loop. And I used the same deck and beat all 3 of the developers, basically. And it was funny because, like, while I'm playing them, and I'm playing these cards, and they're like, I'm the one that actually designed this card, and I actually meant for it to be used in this other way. And they're like, yeah, I designed this card, but there weren't really other mechanics like that, and I want it to be, just like something that you'd throw into, like, another deck, just to get, and they're like, we didn't really mean for it to be used, like, all out like this. We didn't really want full-on discard mulligan decks and stuff like that, like that in there. And, by all means, it really shouldn't have worked, because it was a really trolly deck. But I ended up beating all 3 of them and got their cards signed. And it's funny because they had already been underway of doing the second set. So the second set released, and they already had some cards to start trying to counter the discard mechanics in the second set, but not really that much. But basically, because they were mostly ready to release the second set by the time that happened anyway, it was the third set where they started to really counter those mechanics. And I really stopped playing like tournaments and stuff like that. Like, I never really actually did good in tournaments. I might finish like second to last place or like third to last place. Like, I wouldn't be dead last, but I would never be in like the top 3 or like the top 5, or anything special. I really just played at the con because just by playing you were able to get a pack of con signed cards. So I signed up to play a couple rounds in that and get some con signed cards. And then obviously I played the developers because I wanted to be able to get those signed cards also. But yeah, it really just kind of happened to be luck, because like with playing multiple colors like that back before they actually added that in like set 3 or 4, more often than not what would happen is that you would have, your hand would be too diverse of colors, and you wouldn't have enough of a single color to meet the requirements that you needed to actually solve the problems and get the points you needed. So you would just be stuck constantly drawing for cards while your opponent was solving the problems and getting all the points. And then by the time that you actually were able to start battling them and doing stuff, they were already so close to victory anyway that you couldn't catch up. And that's what ended up happening a lot in the tournaments that I'd play with trolley decks like that. Yellow-blue used to be like one of the best decks out there. And it was a good deck. It's just when you're playing a pre-built deck where everyone's like, hey, you use this many of this card, use this many of this card, and it's a deck you didn't build yourself. It's not really as much fun. And you're like, yep, because I spent the most money and I collected the right cards, I win this game. Or oh no, you're happening to play the deck that counters this, so you know no matter what I do, I lose this game because all your cards directly counter mine. Um, it's just but all the local card shops and like I mean they used to do like exclusive like holograms and stuff, and then like Hot Topic would carry like the reverse holos and everything, and like you'd want to go to your like local Walmart and Target, and they would have like lunch tins that would come with like exclusive cards that you could only get from buying these like little lunch tins, and sometimes they'd sell like exclusive packs that would come with exclusive cards or like alternate artwork that was like also holographic and stuff. And I was like collecting all of that. And they're like, hey, we're going to drop this at Target and it's going to be available at this date. But like each Target is only going to get like 10 of these. So make sure you're like the first in line, you know, or something like that. And I have a massive collection because from the first few sets, I collected like every card, including every like reverse, you know, holo, including like every alternate artwork, including like the con stamped cards. But like apparently, like from what I hear from like every card shop, because we have a good local card, I mean we have multiple local card shops. What I heard from them is that the people that ran that card game, um, were very not only very rude and unprofessional to the actual employees at the card shops when they were like trying to place their orders and trying to get accurate information. Sometimes they'd be like, oh well, you know, we know you want to order this, but like we'll send you whatever we want to send you, and we're not going to let you know what we're going to send you. It'll just show up or it'll never show up. And so if you have people asking you about X, Y, and Z, and if you can get your hands on it so they can get it, then you know you'll just tell them that maybe they can or maybe they can't. Like they were really bad at sharing information, and apparently they had attitudes. And a lot of times they would promise, oh yeah, we're going to send you this, and they'd be like, oh yeah, well we decided that we were going to send them to this other region instead, so nowhere, you know, in your city is going to be able to have them available. Um, there was just a lot of BS going on, so all the local card shops decided to stop carrying them. And then Walmart and Target and all them were still carrying them for a little while, but then they started to only get in like the base stuff that like everyone else sold. They stopped getting all the exclusives and all the extra artwork, like the ones with the exclusive artwork and everything. Hot Topic dropped them after a while, um, and now it's like you can still find them online. You can find them on like eBay from other collectors, you know, charging hundreds of dollars for these packs and stuff, but trying to find them in card shops, trying to find the actual booster boxes at a decent price, and trying to find them, like it's just everywhere. Just you know, decided to drop them. Um, and the last I heard of them, like years ago, is that they were still hosting regional tournaments, but only at cons now. You couldn't get into any tournaments at card shops because all the card shops stopped doing business with them completely. Um, they used to sponsor different like brony meetups, which was really cool. Like we had some local ones in our area where they're like, hey, if you're gonna have at least like 10 to 20 people, if for a meetup, even if it's not a card game based meetup, y'all are just gonna watch the new episode when it drops, and you're making like a meetup event for it. If y'all are gonna have at least X many people, we'll sponsor it and we'll give you X many promo cards to give out as like prizes to people for playing the game and hosting like an unofficial little tournament. They used to do stuff like that, which was really cool. And then they just stopped it, and they're like, no, we're no longer going to give out the free promo cards. We want people to be paying for our cards, and we don't want to make getting free promos something that we do too often. So they like completely reversed their decision on that and stopped doing that. And little by little, it just kind of died out, and there's no longer really any tournaments in our area anyway, and I don't even know if they still do the tournaments at the cons. I mean, it's possible. I collected every card, every like special card, every like for reverse artwork, holo, all that stuff for the first like maybe 2 to 3 sets, like completely the full collection, everything. And then after that, I kind of just got out of it because you couldn't really find it anymore. It was getting too expensive. No one really played it anymore. Yeah. But I know that thing went on for a while. I know it went on for at least a good, more handfuls of sets after I stopped playing. But I have no idea if it's still going strong or not. I remember they had a set based off of the MLP movie that came out years ago. I don't know if they've done anything with Gen 5 or not. But it was just really expensive, and now it's like a couple of my friends would play it with me. They would just use cards that I wasn't using in my deck to kind of try and build a deck. And it's sad because one of my friends was wanting to get into it, but by the time that they actually decided they really wanted to start playing it and going to the tournaments and stuff, it's about the time that our local card shops that were hosting these tournaments stopped actually carrying their cards and actually stopped doing the tournaments because they were getting tired of the reps that they had to deal with. Otherwise, it was actually a really fun game. It had a lot of really cool mechanics, and I watched a lot of interviews that they did with the developers, and they're like, the idea is that we want every game to play out like an episode. We want you to choose the main characters that you find are most interesting in the episode. We want you to choose what problems you're going to have to solve. We want you to have your characters work together to solve the problems. They have to have conflicts while they're trying to solve it. And they're like, we want playing the game to be like creating a storyboard for an episode. And to be fair, it did kind of play like that, and it was actually a really cool concept. And plus, I just really loved the artwork. I loved how they gave different names and titles. They took different scenes from the show, so you'd have, cards of like the same character, but like in different outfits and in different parts from the TV show, referencing different things from the show. And always trying to guess, oh hey, what are they going to come out next? And this set is based on this idea from the TV show, and this set's based on, this culture from the TV show in this area, and it was cool back in the day. But again, collecting all those cards was expensive. And I don't like the idea of I don't like the idea of how good you are at the game being based on how much money you can spend on the game for all the ultra rares and stuff like that, or how many booster boxes you can buy to guarantee how many ultra rares you can get so that you can have all the cards you need to make the most overpowered decks, and also being, oh hey, now the most overpowered decks have been found, all you have to do is just copy paste them and then you win. And that just goes back into balancing. Being able to balance a game so that the cards always stay relevant even when you add new cards, that they don't get too completely countered or even banned because of how overpowered they are, but like everything stays relevant all the time while trying to expand. I know it's hard to do. And like, I love playing Hearthstone too from time to time, but even they can't do that. They do have their wild mode, which is the only mode that I play, which is where all cards are available, nothing is banned. I don't even have, my entire collection is old cards. And I hardly ever play that game anyway. I get back into it for a little bit, and then I quit playing it again for years. And then I might play it again for a month, and then not play it for another handful of years. I recently got back into it, and I've just stopped playing it again. There's too many cards to collect, and but yeah. I recently redid my room, and my TV is now mounted on the wall opposite me instead of being on a stand right in front of me, and I'm used to having the TV 1 or 2 feet away from my face at the same height, and now I'm on the other half of the room and I'm having to look up because it's mounted on the wall, and my neck is starting to get sore. I really made that be another 3 wide gap. It's another thing I have to fix, because I do not like 3 wide gaps. And I don't like 1 wide gaps either. Okay, now let's do this area. Connect this all together. But yeah, it's just memories now. I used to have a lot of fun with it. Helped me actually connect with a lot of people in the community. People I haven't seen or talked to in so many years. We used to have regular meetups that I would go to. Now it's just like everyone's gone their separate ways, and it's like the community is just like not anywhere near what it used to be. And I was lucky enough to get to go to the final BronyCon in, what was it, 2017, 2018, no, 2019. 2018 or 2019. Because I only went to 2 BronyCons. I went to the one in 2014, back when it was still like a ginormous thing. And then I went to the final BronyCon, which was also a ginormous thing because like everyone went to that one because they knew it was going to be the last. And the first time I went by myself, and it was fun, but you know, I really wish my friends could have been there with me. And then the second time I went with someone who was like my best friend at the time. And we both had a lot of fun. It was their first time ever going to a convention. The first one was my first time ever going to a convention. And they had probably the best time of their life. I've never seen them have so much fun, smile so much, be so happy. It was fun, but it was also sad. There are still other conventions I could go to that are in the area from time to time. I've never been to them, but from what I've heard, they are way smaller than that one was. They don't have as much, and from what I hear, a lot of them have been closing down slowly over time because they have less and less attendees each year, and which means that they now have like less and less like major artists and like, you know, voice actors and stuff from the show don't really attend them as much as they used to. Like the one in BronyCon always had like writers from the TV show, always had like the main voice actors from the TV show, always had like the singing voices from the TV show. Like, it was big. I wouldn't mind going back to one again. It just, they cost so much money. But here recently, my trips in the last year have all been to like Six Flags Fiesta Texas. Previously to going last October, was my first time. I hadn't been on a roller coaster since I was in like middle school, and Astro World closed down when I was like still a kid, and I had dreamed of getting back on a roller coaster like so many times, so it was like so surreal being able to go. And since last October, since we got the season passes, I've been a few times with different friends, getting them to go and ride rides and stuff, and it's been a lot of fun. Every time I go to a trip on Six Flags, I'm always like, oh man, now it's going to be a while before I get to go back again because, driving there, gas is expensive, and then hotels are expensive, and then like all the food you eat while you're there is expensive, and then what the hell? I have multiple cows going moo at the same time in unison. Like, um, and then obviously you want to go and get souvenirs, and then it's like when you're not at the park, they have like different malls that have different stores that you don't have back in your area, and you want to go spend money in their arcades and stuff like that, and it's expensive. So yeah, originally I was gonna leave all these different ones that are like one wide open as just like miniature, like trap hallways, but honestly, I feel the flow goes better if everything stays at a wideness of 2. I think randomly having things at a wideness of 1. 1 will give away too many landmarks, because you're like, oh hey, I've already passed by that corridor of 1, so I know not to go this way that leads this way anymore. But 2, I feel it just like throws the entire balance and vibe off, and honestly, I feel like that's the more important reason why I don't want them open. They just bother me. So I'd rather it just be all regular wall so that everything can stay perfectly unison too. Again, very monotonous, very much the same thing. I will ask this, tell me in my comments. When y'all watch my videos, do y'all like my random ranting? Like, is that one of the reasons y'all enjoy watching my videos, or do y'all wish that I had less random ranting and either more conversations just about what I'm doing, or just more silence? Because I feel like that's another thing I do, is like, I'll just not have anything to talk about, and then I'll just be silent, and it'll just be me playing the game in silence, and I'm like, I don't know, it feels kind of awkward, but like, do y'all like the moments of silence? Or do y'all actually prefer my random, like, ranting and, like, just going down memory lane, or, like, here's my ideas, or, like, whatever. I don't know, I feel like if I just did nothing and just played the game with, like, no talking, no ranting, no explanations, nothing, like, I feel like that would get boring after a while. But I also feel like listening to someone rant while they're playing a video game, just, even if especially what they're talking about has nothing to do with the game they're playing, and they're going non-stop for like 10 to 15 minutes, I feel like that could get annoying too. But I don't know, maybe I'll like, oh hey, this person's craziness is entertaining at least. I don't know. You have multiple cows. I actually once built, so I've done, as I've mentioned before, I've built multiple mazes in the past that I've had my friends solve, and the friend I'm going to have solve this one has seen some of those other mazes. I don't think she's seen every one of them, but she has seen a couple of them. And I once went, like, all out and made, like, the stupidest, most impossible to beat maze ever. And like honestly, I honestly think looking back that I made it like unfairly difficult to beat, because like I made this maze like what 15 rooms before, like in the final room of it you had to go into the Nether, and the maze in the Nether was like, hey, somewhere in the Nether I built another nether portal that links to the overworld, and you have to find that other nether portal in order to get to the rest of the maze. And I built it like fucking 1,000 blocks out in like a random ass direction from where that one was, and it was just gas everywhere, like trying to blow you up and everything. With like no hints or anything where it was, you just had to travel. I think like diagonal left or diagonal right from like where you came out of that nether portal, like 1,000 blocks. And not die in the nether, because again, if you die, you lose. So they had to like survive in the nether, and then find their way back to the overworld. And then they had to go over like exploding bridges with TNT that they didn't know were gonna explode on them and try to kill them. And they had to like dodge that. And then they had to go through like multiple death traps with like tripwire and stuff. They had to do like a bounce challenge where like slimes would push them in different directions, and they had to choose which direction, which slime they wanted to land on next, and one of them would take them to the right path and the other path would kill them. A lot of just like, you know, you choose a path to go and one of them is the correct path and the other path is going to kill you kind of thing. And I like, they kept dying over and over and over and over and had to restart that maze over and over and over. And in the final room, they literally just got like, here's 5 minecarts. One of them is the right minecart, and the other 4 are decoys that will take you somewhere that will kill you. I really just wanted to make one that was going to piss them off and be impossible. And since then, I have not made another maze that was that cruel, I will say. All the other mazes have been definitely way more winnable, but I have put more work into them, into being smarter in all the traps. I don't want it to be just a, you know, guess, and either you guess right or you guess wrong. I definitely want there to be either hints that tell you what you need to do, and then if you don't follow them and you die, it's either because you're too stupid to follow the hints, too stupid to, you know, interpret what they actually mean. You know, or because you can't remember basic mechanics of Minecraft, like, oh hey, this is an iron door, I have to push a button or pull a lever somewhere. You know, like, it's not on me if you don't understand, hey, why can't I open this iron door? Why can't I just right click on it, you know, and it work? Like, that's not on me that you don't understand that there has to obviously be redstone involved. Something like that. But I have built some pretty crazy mazes with some pretty crazy stuff before, and I like to try and balance how difficult it is versus like how smart you have to be, and be like, okay, maybe this isn't something that I can, sometimes it could be I just have to raw power it through. I just have to keep going until I eventually find the right lever that opens the right door, and then I find the right path to make the way out. And really the only way to win that is just to power through it. But other times I like there to be things where it's like, oh hey, I have to stop and think for a moment. I have to outsmart this maze. You know, it seems like this is impossible, but, you know, maybe I need to think about it this way, and like, oh hey, now I've, you know, figured out the solution, now I can do it, just because I wasn't thinking, you know, of this before. And that's how y'all are going to watch me build this one. Is that each level is going to have something special about it. So now that I've done hidden levers and opening doors and having to find levers to open the doors, that's not going to be the main mechanic of any other room that I build in this maze. Now, that doesn't mean that I may not use that mechanic in other ways, but that means that the other stuff that they're going to do is not going to rely primarily on that in order to beat the other rooms. I always like to put some kind of parkour room in, usually closer to the end, closer to the top. I like to put some parkour in where it's just basic platforming. Nothing else, just basic platforming from up high, and if you fall, you're going to die. I also usually like to put different kinds of redstone components in. So maybe I'll put some tripwires in, maybe just some death traps, maybe I'll put them into something that will open up like a secret section of wall that you need to go through. I like to do arrow challenges with like arrows, like shooting arrows at like a hidden target block to open up a pathway that you didn't see before. I want each room to have something kind of in it where you're like, hey, I haven't really seen this used in the maze before, so I can't really take my experience from the previous rooms and put it to this. I have to do something else. So now that I figured out that I had to do this in this room and I had to do this in this room, now I have to do something different in this room. So what's something I haven't tried yet? I don't want it to be the same old thing over and over. And that's part of the thing that makes it more fun to build. Is because if you're just doing the same thing over and over, it's easy. It doesn't take any real thought to be able to do that. But if you're having to create different challenges each time, you're having to be more creative in the building process of making sure that everything still flows and that you're not just reusing the same idea over and over. And that's part of what makes this fun too. Again, I will reuse concepts. Like I pretty much always, when I build a maze, I always make floor 1 be a hidden lever or a hidden button or a hidden tripwire. Some kind of hidden redstone component that you have to activate in order to be able to get out. And I always put it as far away from the actual mechanic as I can as possible. Typically, in the past, it's been like 1 lever or like a tripwire and a lever. This is the first time I'm doing just 3 levers. That I'm doing 3 of them in one anyway. This is also a bigger maze, like from the basic outline. I forgot how many I did. I either did like 150 by 150 or 250 by 250 for the block count. I don't even remember, but I remembered that in the past I usually like to do like 100 by 100 or 125 by 125. I like to do big, so I made sure to do more blocks than I normally do because I wanted this to be a much bigger maze. I wanted to have much bigger room. One thing I haven't done in like the mazes I've done in the past few iterations was the slime blocks, and I actually really liked that concept of having like slime blocks like toss you around everywhere. And I think I'm going to include that in a bigger version of a parkour room because my parkour is usually just like stone stacked up in the air and you have to try to make it between all the different like platforms, but I'm thinking I'm also going to include slime blocks this time as well to kind of spice things up a little bit. Yep, still works. Okay. I also love zooming out and seeing the entire thing. That is just so beautiful to look at. And also, when I'm building mazes, I like to use super flat worlds. I don't want to have to deal with terrain. I don't want to have to deal with having to like flatten out a giant area first. I like to just use super flat worlds. So we are at positive 34 to be able to get this on our screen. Let's see. So I'm going to say about positive 22 blocks, and we go all the way down to negative 60. So that's like 82 blocks in the air to be able to get this entire thing to fit on our screen. Okay, that is the floor of it done. I'm going to build up all of these walls, probably another 3 to 4 layers before I put a roof on them and start covering this place up. And then once I do that, I'll start building on the floor of the second layer. And I will also have to put some kind of lighting in here. If it's completely dark, I don't know if I like that. I have used darkness in the past, only had certain areas lit up that weren't that important and let most of the maze be in the dark. And I feel like that really helps kind of slow down the pace at which they can solve the maze, but most of my mazes in the past for the first floor have probably been like a 1/4 section of this, or maybe, not much bigger than like 1/4 section of this. So like letting them go in the dark and something that small, I'm like, yeah, but something this big, if it's all like pitch black and you can't hardly see anyway, I don't think that I really like that idea. So I'll probably make the roof be a light source block, um, so that everything's lit up at least. Oh, it is already 6:25. I have no idea how long I've been recording. I probably should have kept time. Yeah, I go into work at 11 p.m., which means I need to leave here by 10, which means I need to be getting ready by 9. That's 2.5 hours. I'm going to go ahead and call this video 1 done. I'm not going to be working on my maze anymore today. I'm going to take a break and try to have some time to myself before I have to get ready for work. Maybe take a nap. We'll see. Get some food. And then I will come back another day and I will record part 2 where I'm going to build up the walls. I'm going to build up the ceiling with light blocks and then build up the floor of the next one and figure out what level 2 is all going to be about. I haven't even thought about what level 2 is going to be about yet or how many levels I'm going to put in. I know I want to put in a bunch of different levels. I want to put in a bunch of challenges, and I want to be able to really let my creative energy just flow through this thing to make it as fun as possible. Not only to build, but I also want it to be fun for the person who's actually trying to solve this. I don't want it to be, like an absolute chore. I know level 1 is an absolute chore. Level 1's not going to be too terribly fun, but going on from level 2 and on, I want them to be more creative and I want them to be more fun to solve. So, thanks for tuning in. Well, I say thanks for tuning in. This isn't being live streamed. This is all going to be in like video or videos together. But thanks for watching so far. Again, when this is on YouTube, I don't know if this video is going to be the only video or if it's going to be stitched with another video. But leave your comments based on, again, what is it y'all like to see? What is it y'all like to watch? Like when I'm doing my streams, do y'all like the ranting? Do y'all like my random ideas? Like, oh, hey, I think this would be cool. Or I don't like this. Or, do y'all prefer the silence? Or I don't know. Or do y'all prefer me to talk about stuff that's relevant to what I'm doing versus like the randomness? Do y'all like the idea of building mazes for your friends and everything? Based on how y'all see the progression of this building thing goes, do y'all think it would be fun to play? Do y'all have any suggestions for the next time that I build like my next maze? Things that y'all would like to see me put in that I didn't put into this one? Or maybe you're like, hey, I don't really like this. I would swap out what you did here for this instead. I think this would be a better idea. Ways that you would improve it. Because that's what I like to do in creative. I like to build things, but even when I'm done with them, I'm never like, this is perfect. I'm always like, let's make improvements. Let's make, Mach 3, version 4, version 5, version 10. Let's keep rebuilding the same thing over and over and over and adding new things in it each time and taking out things that I didn't really like each time to replace with new things, to keep trying to make it more fun and more better and more interesting and bigger. But yeah, leave your comments, and I typically am pretty good about replying within 24 hours when I see comments on my videos, just depending on my work schedule. But thank you for your time watching my video. It makes it worth making these when I see that people are watching them, and especially when I see people commenting on them, getting any kind of entertainment value out of them.